Lysane Crooks, a.k.a. MC New York. That's who we're going to be talking about on today's episode of The Odd Podcast. And if you're like, who the heck is Lysane Crooks? Who is MC New York? You're about to find out. I'm Joe Parisi, and on this episode of The Odd Podcast, our special guest, New York Times best-selling author, Jeff Pearlman, who just released his latest book, Only God Can Judge Me: The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. I got really big into Tupac's music when I was in high school. More recently, I've become a big fan of this sports writer who has a big presence on social media, Jeff Pearlman. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's got all these books about various sports topics out there, and I just learned that for the last several years, he had been working on a book about Tupac, and the book just came out, and Jeff is kind of making the rounds, and he was nice enough to say, yes, I would love to come on your show. So we're going to check in with Jeff in a little bit, learn some fun things about Tupac and some cool stories about things that Jeff encountered while working on this book and in these last couple of weeks since it's been released. It's very interesting stuff. Lysane Crooks, a.k.a. MC New York, born June 16th, 1971. So if we're trying to do quick math, if he was still around, he would be 54 years old. At just a year old, his parents renamed him. That's when he was renamed Tupac Shakur. He was after an Inca ruler who was executed in Peru in the late 1700s. Tupac's mother said she wanted him to have a name that was revolutionary. She wanted him to know that he was a part of a world culture, not just from a neighborhood. His mom moved him and his siblings from New York to Baltimore, Maryland around the time Tupac was 13. In 10th grade, he began attending the Baltimore School for the Arts. Here, he started studying acting, poetry, jazz, and ballet. He performed in Shakespearean plays. He was in a Nutcracker ballet. Quite a long stretch from the Tupac that you and I think of with, the thug life tatted across the torso. While attending the Baltimore School for the Arts, he began rapping, and he had a friend who would beatbox while he would rap, and he would perform. And he actually won a contest for being the school's best rapper. 1988. Family moves to Marin City, California. This is in the San Francisco Bay Area. He continued to perform in school plays. He didn't end up graduating from high school, though. He did end up getting the GED. In 1988, he began making rap recordings under the stage name MC New York. So you can kind of envision it. He's this kid out in California, but he knew that he was born in New York, so he's thinking like, that'll kind of be my street cred. I'm going to be MC New York. I'm imagining this, but you see what I'm saying. He was also, at the same time, attending poetry classes, and he assembled a rap group that they called themselves Strictly Dope. Now, the woman who taught these poetry classes, instrumental, her name, Layla Steinberg, and she had some connections, and she also saw something in Tupac, and she believed in him. And she became his manager for a time, and she actually helped him and his group find opportunities to perform in front of audiences. And eventually, she's helped him get signed by this person named Atron Gregory. Atron Gregory happened to also be the manager of the rap group Digital Underground, the Humpty Dance. So here's where that connection enters. He's now affiliated with people who are actually in the rap game, out there, on the national stage. In 1990, Atron Gregory places him with Digital Underground as both a roadie and a backup dancer. Now, you may remember that bizarre movie from 1991 called Nothing But Trouble. I've actually done a podcast episode all about it. Dan Aykroyd plays like this weird backwoods judge who lives in this decrepit mansion. John Candy, Chevy Chase, Demi Moore. Well, Digital Underground appears in that film, and they perform a song in the movie called Same Song. This was kind of their follow-up to the Humpty Dance. And Tupac appears with the group in that film. It's a courtroom scene, and then while they're performing. And it's on this song, same song, that for the very first time he is credited as Tupac, with the spelling being the number 2, P-A-C. So this is where, quote, Tupac was born. 1991, same song, in the film Nothing But Trouble. And Tupac does appear on that song.
I like to rock and you can't stop this. Tupac, go ahead and rock this.
Now I clown around when I hang around with the underground. Girls used to frown, say I'm down when I come around. Gas me, and when they pass me, they used to...
So kind of a big deal for Tupac. Digital Underground is very well known at this time. And not only did they let him be in the movie with them, and on the song, they introduce him in the song as Tupac. So things are really starting to work for him in 1991. But this is the crazy thing to think about. In just a short 5.5 years from the release of that film and the release of Digital Underground's same song, Tupac will be dead. So everything we know, all the songs, all the music videos, all the acting appearances, he did all of it in just 5.5 years. And let's not forget, out of that 5-year window, 8 months of it, he was in prison. So, needless to say, this guy accomplished a whole hell of a lot in a very small window of time. And I'm not going to go into an album by album, movie by movie analysis here, but I just want to throw some titles at you just to kind of remind you, oh yeah, he did that too. He did that too. He did a lot in a short amount of time. So, of course, the Digital Underground stuff. Then in 1991, he released his own album called Tupacalypse Now. This is the album that gave us Brenda's Got a Baby.
I hear Brenda's got a baby, but Brenda's barely got a brain. A damn shame, the girl can hardly spell.
1993, another album. It was the Strictly for My N.I. blah, 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 which gave us Keep Your Head Up and I Get Around. 1995, the Me Against the World album was released while he was in prison. That album included Dear Mama and So Many Tears. And then the final release before his death, 1996's All Eyes on Me. That was the double CD that included, of course, that album was released on February 13th, 1996. It was his first album under Death Row Records. It also gave us the hits Two of America's Most Wanted and How Do You Want It? Now, let us not forget, through this time where he's just pumping out these great songs and great songs and great songs, he's acting. He's appearing in films. He's appearing in TV shows. This guy is absolutely everywhere, getting great reviews with everything he's doing. He was in an episode of Drexel's Class. He was in A Different World. He played Lucky in Poetic Justice alongside Janet Jackson in 93. He played Birdie in Above the Rim in 1994. In 96, he played a character named Tank in the movie Bullet. He was in about 24 music videos. This guy was everywhere. And then on September 13th, 1996, it all came to a screeching halt. Tupac was shot in a drive-by shooting shortly after leaving the Mike Tyson-Bruce Seldon fight at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. He would die from those injuries 6 days later. The Don Columinati, The 7-Day Theory, that album, which he released under the alias Machiavelli, was recorded just weeks prior to his death. It gave us the Tupac favorite Hail Mary, and it was in stores just 2 months after he died. The Machiavelli stuff is pretty interesting, and it became even more interesting in the Tupac discussion after his death. Niccolo Machiavelli was an Italian philosopher alive in the mid-1400s into the 1500s. He wrote about power, strategy, survival. One of his main ideas was that to protect yourself or to achieve great goals, you sometimes have to use cunning deception and manipulation. And he even wrote about faking one's death to fool enemies, which many fans interpreted as perhaps a clue that Tupac might have faked his own death. And then what happens over the years that follow? More and more Tupac music continues to be released, which kind of fuels these rumors. Are You Still Down was then released in 1997, featuring mostly stuff that was previously unreleased. Then 6 more albums have been released since his death. Tupac Shakur sold more than 75 million records worldwide, and he's become a legend, an urban legend, an icon, you name it. Rock and roll has these feelings with Elvis and with John Lennon, and hip-hop has it with Tupac. To be honest, the thing that blew me away as I was doing my research is that 5.5-year window. I didn't realize all the stuff he did was condensed down like that. And when I look at the calendar of events here, February 1991, the movie Nothing But Trouble comes out. And it wasn't as if the world all suddenly became fans of Tupac right at that moment. Most of us, honestly, probably still never heard of Tupac for a few more years. And then he dies in 1996. So realistically, myself and many of you listening were probably only aware of him, or maybe even fans of him and his music, for the last, 3 years of his life. That's crazy. This 5.5-year window where he did all this stuff is just blowing my mind. I had no idea it was so condensed. And I'm sure I didn't realize it because, they just kept releasing new CDs, new music after his death like it was nothing. New material, now more new material, now more new material. And it just skewed the timeline, I guess, for me. So much mystery surrounding this whole thing. It's a fascinating story, a tragic story in many ways. And Jeff Pearlman set out to figure out what is fact, what is fiction, and what do we still not know about this incredible force. Even if you just did 20 minutes of research on Tupac, you would start to kind of scratch your head and wonder, how did we go from this Baltimore theater kid who was taking ballet and enrolling in poetry classes and performing Shakespeare? How did we get from that to the death row Tupac with thug life tattooed across his body, walking up and punching people in the lobby of the MGM Grand? How did we get from A to B? And then you take into account that this was a guy who was also a brilliant actor. He studied acting since his teen years. And you wonder, was any of what we were seeing just an act? Was he playing a part in order to please hip-hop fans in the 90s? Regardless, what I can tell you for sure is there are just a ton of layers to be peeled back here in the story of Tupac. And what a great author, researcher, biographer does is peels back those layers and finds out what the heck happened. How did we get from there to there? And who was this guy really? Jeff Pearlman is a sports writer. He's written 9 books that are New York Times bestsellers. Some of the titles include The Bad Guys Won, a biography of the 1986 New York Mets. Love Me, Hate Me, the unauthorized biography of Barry Bonds. Football for a Buck, about the short-lived United States Football League. The Last Folk Hero, the life and myth of Bo Jackson. In 2014, he released a book called Showtime, Magic, Kareem, Riley, and the Los Angeles Lakers dynasty of the 1980s. That book was adapted into the 2022 HBO docudrama series Winning Time, The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. Jeff spent 7 years writing for Sports Illustrated as a baseball writer. He's written for Newsday, ESPN.com, and over the last several years, he has become a very popular presence on social media. That is where I discovered Jeff, through his TikTok account. What I can tell you about Jeff Pearlman is that he is a incredible, fascinating storyteller who also happens to have a plethora of amazing stories because of the line of work that he's in. After having spent years researching and compiling the information to put into his new book, he arguably now knows more about Tupac Shakur than anybody on the planet. So please, Odd Podcast listeners, let's welcome to the show, Jeff Pearlman. decades of writing about sports, what was the path to diving into a Tupac book that was going to consume years of your life?
Man, because I like self-mutilation and self-punishment. And I didn't have a brick nearby to slam into my head. So I thought, what's the hardest thing I can do besides that? I can write a Tupac book. I don't know. I've written 10 sports books. I love doing it. I'm sure I'll do more. I like the idea of challenging yourself. I always use two examples. And I'm not putting myself in their category or anything, but like, I liked when Michael Jordan quit basketball and played baseball. I don't think hitting 202 at Double A was a failure. I think it was a success. I think it was cool. He tried something different. And I liked when Garth Brooks did a rock album under the name Chris Gaines. People made fun of both those guys. I thought it was cool. I thought it was different. So I kind of thought for myself, why can't I try something different and kind of cool and funky? And here I sit with my very own Tupac book.
So going into it, was there a little bit of fear as far as, how is the hip hop community going to accept me poking around, especially if I happen to uncover some things that maybe, change the narrative a little bit about Tupac?
I think in hindsight, maybe I was too dumb I wasn't that worried about it at the time. I would say some of that has come to fruition where there are certainly people who are like, the terms you hear are culture vulture. You get a lot of that. Yeah. I don't think I did. I honestly think I go into every book thinking, all right, I'm excited to tackle this subject. I'm excited to walk new turf. I'm excited to learn about things I never learned about. And then later on, I'll kind of deal with the stuff that comes with it. I will say more has come with this book than the other books. It's definitely hard. It's definitely a challenge. I definitely get asked piercing questions, many of which I expected, some of which I didn't. But I don't think beforehand I worried about it that much. Maybe I should have. Maybe I was just naive.
The reason I ask is, I've been following you a lot online, and I've been, seeing you talk about some of these people that are going after you, and you've read that they haven't even read, you learned they haven't even read the book, and they're still attacking you for clicks, basically.
Yeah. Not that fun. I feel like I've never had a problem with anyone ever, literally ever, reading one of my books and saying, this is bullshit, this is wrong, he got this wrong, this book sucks, this guy sucks. It's not like I enjoy it, but I can at least understand it. Like, I've seen movies I don't like. I'll talk about it. I thought Rocky V sucked, but someone was working hard on Rocky V and someone put their time and energy into it. So I understand, you do put yourself out there when you, I don't know, create something and put it out there for public consumption. I don't really get this whole thing like, this book, blah, 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 blah. Well, have you read it? I'm not reading that. I'm not like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? You can get it from the library for free. You literally can take it out for free. It will cost you absolutely nothing. Then you have every right because you're informed. And it does bother me. Like I can't, it's one of my big pet peeves is the whole criticizing a book that you haven't read. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, bash me after you've read it. It's fine, but it's kind of garbage.
Well, I'm sure there was a lot of very rewarding things in this process. I am obsessed with researching pop culture topics, and you're always hunting for that big aha, that big payoff moment when you're deep down a rabbit hole. What were, some of the parts of Tupac's life or career that, looking back, brought you the most enjoyment as a researcher, that brought you the most moments, that you were like, oh my gosh, there it is?
I mean, I thought his Baltimore, he grew up in New York, then he moved to Baltimore when he was in middle school. And he went to there are a couple of things actually. His freshman year, he was at Dunbar High School. And this is totally random. Dunbar is you may know this or not, was known back in the day for producing basketball players. It was Muggsy Bogues went there. Reggie Williams went there, David Wingate went there, and Sam Cassell went there. And I saw that Sam Cassell was there when Tupac was there. And I reached out to the 76ers, just curious if he might remember Tupac. And I actually get a call from Cassell. And he's like, nobody's ever asked me about this before, but he sat behind me in geometry class. And I just thought, that's the coolest freaking thing. That's just the coolest thing. And I'm not saying it's a big one, but then I love his high school years. Like, I'm in love with high school Tupac. I think he's the most interesting, artistic, flamboyantly artistic, nail polish fingernails, shows up at school with a baby bottle that he drinks water out of the nipple, spray painting on his clothes. And I did find his high school girlfriend who'd never been interviewed before. Her name was Mary, and she was a ballet dancer at the School for the Arts. And she told me that She told me she lives in Nebraska now, and she said, my mom recently found about 100, 150 letters that Tupac wrote me under her bed when she was cleaning. You come out to Nebraska, I'll let you read the letters Tupac wrote to me. Well, I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. And she had all these amazing, beautifully written, textured, detailed, gorgeous letters from Tupac where you could just see how good of a writer he was. And part of it was love, and part of it was horniness, part of it was sadness, part of it was depression, and part of it was hopelessness, all there in these letters. And that to me, as a guy who digs research, was just, it speaks to the idea of like calling everyone, call everyone, make the extra call, make the extra call, make the extra call. Be the first person who gets to see these letters that he wrote as a kid. So I love that stuff.
Who were some of the, the quote, white whales, the people that popped into your head at some point that you're like, I have to get so-and-so, and did it come to be?
You're not talking about the obvious ones. You're not talking about like Jada Pinkett. You mean like the...
No. I'm not into that.
Yeah. Okay. There are a couple. Number one, when he was, so basically he spent, he was in Baltimore after his junior year. Then his heart was torn from his body when his mom relocated to Marin City in California with him and his sister. Absolutely devastated. And Tupac moves to Marin City, and he's really a Baltimore kid and a New York kid. He's not a West Coast kid. And early on in his time there, he gets in like a rap battle. He's known as MC New York at this point. And he gets in a rap battle with some 13-year-old rapper named Tack. And Tupac gets his ass kicked. It's the first time he's really gotten his ass kicked in any kind of rap battle or showdown. He's a young guy. He's a high school senior. And someone told me that after that happened, Tupac vanished for about 5 years, about 5 days. And he hung out with this local crack dealer kingpin named Bobby Burton. And he asked Bobby Burton, basically, can I follow you around for 4 or 5 days and take notes about who you are, what you do, how you operate? Because he just got his ass kicked by a real Marin City kid, like a kid who knew what it was to grow up poor in drug and Tupac didn't. So he takes 4 or 5 days and he comes back armed with this amazing song he wrote called Days of a Criminal. Well, I really wanted to talk to Bobby Burton. I wanted to find the old crackpin Bobby Burton. And I wound up having breakfast at a diner with him and his grandson. And like, he was amazing, but it's more like there's a full circle weirdness to like, when you research a book, you're so trapped in the moment, and you in every way but physical, you are thrown back in time, right, to whatever you're writing about, and you're all about that. And I'm picturing Bobby Burton, who at one point was kidnapped, thrown in the trunk of a car by like rival gangbangers, and was supposed to die but somehow escaped. And he's sitting here with his adorable grandson, who's like has an iPad and is wearing a Yankee hat. Like, I love stuff like that. I just like, I got to interview. This sounds stupid, but I got to sit down with Chuck D, one of my rap and musical heroes, and Kid from Kid and Play. And I listened to Rolling with Kid and Play a million times freshman year in college. All the guys from Digital Underground, all these, Lisa. I got to have snacks with Lisa in Southern California. Little things like that, man. It was, but I'm like, a book can beat you up, and I'm kind of beaten up. Like, I am like tired of promoting, tired of it's hard and it beats on you. But when I think back at the day by day of it all, it was an amazing journey. Like, that's the whole thing. It's just an amazing journey to go on.
How many years? What are we talking? 3, 4?
About 3, which is a little longer than most. Usually I'm a 2-year book guy. But this book was just hard. It was just really, really hard.
Now, somebody, kind of some inside baseball, somebody that's a professional author, writer at your level, did you have to kind of get a company to sign on to you doing a Tupac book before you began?
Yeah. So I don't know. I wouldn't say my level was any great level. I appreciate that. But what basically, I mean, I've written 10 books, so I guess that's what you mean. Like some guy who has experience.
Yeah. New York Times best-selling author multiple times.
Nationally handsome author.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Basically, what you're saying is the world's greatest author. Is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah. Well, pretty much. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, all right. My last book was about Bo Jackson. It sold very, very well. Made the New York Times list. I did that with HarperCollins. I said to my agent, he's like, "What are you thinking for next book?" I'm like, "I really want to do a Tupac book." And he said to me kind of wisely, he's an agent, he's supposed to do this. He's like, "You're a white Jewish sports writer, like from New York. You're really the guy to do this." And I was like, "I really think I am." So I talked to HarperCollins, and there's the head of Mariner division is this guy, Peter Hubbard, who's awesome. It's the first time I didn't have to write a book proposal. I didn't have to write a book proposal for this book. I explained what I wanted to do, why I thought I was a guy to do it, why I thought the book could sell, what I would bring to Tupac that maybe other authors haven't. And against all odds of anything, maybe the stupidity of the people at HarperCollins and Mariner, they gave me a book deal. And here I sit. you know?
It's fantastic.
It is the most, I
Now,
will tell you, it is the most rewarding. It's the hardest book I've ever worked on. The hardest book I've ever had to promote. I've never gotten this much, like, not from a ton of people. Like, the reviews have been 98% great. There's definitely a inner working of hip hop community that is just not happy I wrote this book, right?
Mhm.
Who are you to write this book? And that has not been easy, right? Because number one, he's been dead now for almost 30 years. Like, someone else certainly could have written this book and I would not have written it. Like,
Mhm.
there are a million great hip hop writers who happen to be Black, who happen to be covering hip hop for years. No one did it. Like, I was waiting. I didn't need to write this book. I was waiting. No one did it. At some point, people start forgetting you. I know people say that can't happen with Tupac. It happens with everybody. Everyone gets forgotten. And at some point, if you don't write a book, 30 years is a long time since someone died, 29 years. At some
Mhm.
point, someone had to write the damn definitive, not estate issued, hardcore Tupac biography. So I thought I would try. Here I am.
The estate thing, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know where the estate of Tupac stands, who controls that. Maybe you can tell me. And did you have to work through them, or how was the relationship working with them?
That is a great question. So the estate, it's interesting. So Tupac's sister, Set, who I interviewed, is not affiliated with the estate. Basically, when Tupac died, the estate went to his mother. When his mother, Feeney, died, she bequeathed the proprietariness of the estate, if that's even a word, to a woman named Molly and then Tom Whaley, the former Interscope head. And they run the estate. Her sister, Feeney's sister, Glow, is also involved. And they distribute everything. They're in charge of everything. Whenever you see anything from the estate, that is via them. I don't have anything bad to say about the estate. And this is going to sound like a criticism, but it's actually not. I reach out. So Molly is one of the people who runs the estate. I got no beef with Molly. We've had nice texts. When I early on asked for someone from the estate to do an interview, Molly said to me, "We'll consider it if you give us a list of everyone you've interviewed." Now, it is fair for them to ask that. Like, they can ask whatever the hell they want, right? Maybe that's their procedure. For me, as a journalist, I would never release a list of my interviews. That's just, it's not right. I wouldn't do it. So I didn't have any estate. I didn't need estate approval. There are certain, like, I don't own the rights to the song. So if you read the book, you'll see, like, there's basically a fair usage limit of lyrics you can use. 2 lines, sometimes 4 lines, sometimes 6 lines, but a lawyer goes through that. So that's a one advantage, where if you have the estate behind you, like there was an estate book that came out a couple of years ago, and they could run full lyrics, no problem.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So who's making money? Interscope and
No, not Interscope.
part of the family?
I mean, the estate, I don't know how they distribute it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know I know, like, certain people are entitled to X amount, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every time, again, this is not a criticism, although I can't say I love it. Every time you go to Target or Walmart and you see their sweatshop made $8 Tupac shirt,
Yeah.
well, that's the estate gives permission for that, and it's licensed by the estate.
Uh-huh.
I understand it. On the one hand, it's kind of cool that you have a million people wearing Tupac shirts and kids who have never even heard of Tupac. The same with Kurt Cobain. You see a million Kurt Cobain shirts.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be my probably thing, but I get it.
So one of the stories that, came about as you were doing your research is the Brenda's baby story. I know you've told it online, but can you share what happened with my listeners? Because this is wild.
This is replacing my John Rocker story as a story I've been told far too many times, but I totally get it. Did you know the song Brenda's Got a Baby?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yes.
So, Tupac was filming Juice in 1991. He was in New York City. It was his first motion picture, really, of any sort. He reads the Daily News every day, gets it delivered to his trailer. One day there's a story in the Daily News, Cries in the Night. It is about a 12-year-old girl who was raped by a cousin, gave birth to the baby, hadn't told anyone she was pregnant, gave birth to the baby on the bathroom floor of her apartment in the projects in Brooklyn, Noble Drew Ali, public housing unit. Wraps the baby in a plastic bag, throws the baby down the trash heap. It's the day the trash compactor is supposed to go. There's a guy who works in the building who's downstairs this day in the basement, and he hears what sounds like a cat or a baby. He walks over, he sees it's a baby, picks the baby up, brings the baby to the hospital. Tupac reads a story about this in the Daily News, goes into his trailer, writes a song, Brenda's Got a Baby, based upon this. Time passes. I'm working on this book. I saw an Omar Epps interview. Omar Epps was also in Juice, just about the inspiration for the song. And I thought it would be kind of cool if we could find the baby. That'd be amazing. I work with an outstanding genealogist named Michelle Sully, who I went to high school with, just the best. And I said to Michelle, do you think it'd be possible maybe that we could find this baby? And she's a wizard. Like if anyone could do it, it's her, truly. And a couple of days later, she's like, all right, I have a name for a guy named Davon Hodge. I think this might be him. Here's his number. And I texted him, and I basically, because I always say nobody answers their phone anymore. So you can't just call people. They just don't answer. So I sent this super lame text like, hey, this is kind of random, but my name's Jeff Pearlman. I'm a writer working on a book. By any chance, is this you? And I attached an article, which is basically the equivalent of asking someone, hey, by any chance, did your mom throw you down a trash heap when she was 12 and raped?
Right, yeah.
Hope you're doing well. You know, it's like, hope you're good. He wrote back. It was him. And he lives in Las Vegas. And I drove out to Vegas a couple of days later, sat down with this guy. Awesome, awesome, awesome dude. Like the best. Like could not like him any more than I do. Like just a really good gem of a human being. Spoke at length. Basically, a couple of years ago, both his adoptive parents had died. He had moved to Vegas. They had moved as a family to Vegas. He does an Ancestry.com search after they pass. He sees all these ties to Brooklyn. Reaches out to a bunch of them. They're like, do you know who you are? Like, we've been looking for you for years. You're the baby, blah, 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 blah. He flies to Brooklyn. He meets with the family, has this amazing reunion. While he's there, they're like, do you like Tupac? He's like, I do. They're like, do you know the song Brenda's Got a Baby? He's like, I do. Like, we think that's you. They show him the trash heap where he was thrown down. He literally sent me a picture of him standing next to the trash heap like this. You know, it's like kind of crazy. So he tells me the story, which is remarkable. And then I went back to Michelle Sully, the best genealogist on the planet. And I said, it'd be great if we could find the mom, you know? It'd be cool if we could find the mom. The mom went missing. And she gets a number and she reaches out to her and they're texting back and forth. And she calls her and she's like, it's kind of random. I'm working with this writer, Jeff Pearlman, about a Tupac book. By any chance, did you have a baby when you were 12 years old? And the woman starts screaming, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, crying. Do you know where my baby is? I've been looking for my baby for decades. Do you have an idea where? She's crying and screaming. And Michelle's like, yeah, we do. And she starts going, the woman's going, I need to get home. I'm away from home. I need to get back home. I live in Newark, New Jersey, but I'm away. Michelle said, well, what are you doing? She's like, I'm at a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert tonight. She said, where's the concert? She said, Las Vegas. And Michelle said, well, your son lives in Las Vegas. And they reunited that night.
Unbelievable. All because of this book.
Yeah.
All because of this.
I mean,
book.
you know what?
Wow.
I'm being sincere when I say this. This is not like some self-deprecation thing. People are like, you, blah, 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 you as in me. Get a good genealogist. It's the power of a good genealogist. It really is. Like, she is just the best of the best. Like, I had the curiosity to wonder about it, and I had the journalistic whatever background to know to go see him and to pursue this. But I didn't find her, and I didn't find him. It was all Michelle Sully. She's amazing.
Man, so okay, that's the perfect plug for people to go out and buy this book. But there's so much more. There's so much more uncovered in this book. Yeah. So another one. So I recently, actually, the episode I did before this, leading up to Halloween, was all about Bride of Frankenstein, because an interesting thing just happened with that actress Elsa Lanchester, who played the bride back in the 1930s. Yeah. And the story, all along, she died in 1986. The story went, her husband died decades before her, never had any children. She passed away, cremated, ashes scattered at sea. So for 40 years, roughly, fans have not had a place to go pay their respects to her.
Are you about to tell me she's in Cuba with Tupac and Biggie?
No, I'm about to tell you that she's been buried in North Hollywood all along, and nobody realized it because she was buried under her married last name, and nobody ever put it together except for this guy named Scott Michaels, who was my guest on the last show, who uncovered this, and they just a week ago, right before Halloween, held a big ceremony to place a grave marker there. She was cremated, but just in an unmarked thing at this Hollywood cemetery. And you kind of had a similar finding with Tupac.
Very much so.
Do tell.
Yeah. So Tupac, everyone knows his ashes were scattered off the coast in Malibu, out here in California, in a ceremony, and it was a big deal, and everyone knew it, and that was cool. And so Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, was from Lumberton, North Carolina. It's kind of weird, actually. I went to Lumberton, number one, because I'm a loser and I have no life, and this is all I do is like focus on these subjects. Number 2, the Lumberton vacation package. But number 3, the main reason is, there's not, I wouldn't say it's the most exciting town in America, but it has a lot of history. And number 3 is I wanted to go and use the microfilm machine at the Lumberton Library to go through old records. Okay. I get there to Lumberton. Proof I'm a moron. I show up. Didn't call at first. Get there, like library opens at 9 or 10. I'm there when the door opens. Sign over the machine. Microfilm out of order. Like, wait, what the crap? Seriously? I just flew 2,800 miles to be here. So I ended up finding some relatives who lived there, the Powers family. They were cousins of Afeni and Tupac. And one of the cousins is a younger guy, probably in his 40s, named Dante. And Afeni Shakur, after Tupac died, she returned to Lumberton, built a huge house, beautiful house on swaths of acres of property. And since she died, it's been vacant. She died 9 years ago. So the property's been vacant, but it's still owned by the estate. And this cousin Dante is in charge of taking care of the house. The gas man has to come, or the water man comes, make sure the lawn is like it's abandoned, but it's in okay shape. Well, I was sitting with him, and he said to me, "Do you want to come to the house? I have to go to the house, Afeni's house. Why don't you want to just come?" Because I'd been there earlier, sneaking around on the yard, but I just kind of over a fence, and he was offering a tour of the house. I was like, "Great." Takes me with him. Gas woman is literally coming to the house. I go in, I'm walking around. He's like, "Make yourself at home," basically. I'm walking around looking at Afeni Shakur's old stuff. Kind of cool. And then he said, "Do you want to see where Tupac is buried?" And I'm like, I don't know what I said to him, but I was kind of like, I don't really know what that means because like everyone knows. And he's basically like, "No, he has a grave here. His mom buried some of the ashes here." All right. I mean, I go out, and then on this yard in an abandoned house in Lumberton, North Carolina, is Tupac Shakur's grave. Right there. The stone, I had it verified. She buried ashes underneath it. And it's kind of, I always say it's like if you found out Marilyn Monroe's is buried in like Brewster, New York, behind the Brewster General Store. Just, hey, there's Marilyn Monroe.
Just right there.
I mean, Tupac Shakur has to be one of the top 5 biggest icons of the 90s. And like, there's the stuff right there. There's his grave. That was kind of my understanding about that.
Did you get the impression that the people in that town aren't even aware of it, or by this point it's old news to them, or is it just that there's nobody there?
Didn't know. Just didn't know. And it's funny because someone said, one of the criticisms was like, this guy said he's breaking news, but blah, blah, blah. People knew. I'm like, did you know? And did you know? And
right.
knows I didn't know. And I've never seen it written about anywhere. So, I'm not saying I'm the first person to know about it. People get this wrong sometimes. When you say you're breaking news, it doesn't mean obviously there are going to be people who know something before you do. But a wide audience had no idea that Tupac was buried in Lumberton.
Right. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Is this going to now become a place people take trips to?
I don't know, actually. I would,
which could cause problems for them.
Sure. I mean, it's actually, I think I'm pretty transparent about this stuff. Like, there is a good debate to be had whether I was wrong or right to include the address. To me, I just think my job as a biographer, I'm not going to, I wouldn't give the address of his sister who I interviewed. That's, but he is actually dead. It is a vacant lot. He is buried.
Yeah, nobody lives there.
Nobody lives there. I don't really see how it is infringing on anyone's. If it was if it was Joe and Bob Stevens' house, I'm not going to say you should just go to the Stevens house and visit the front yard. He's living in an abandoned house. So I don't feel bad. But I do think certainly more people will go.
Absolutely. And, if anybody has ever been to the, quote, Tupac Memorial in Las Vegas, I take it you've been there.
Yeah.
So my family and I, we were last year, I don't know, 6 months ago, we were out in Vegas, and I saw on a map, there's a Tupac Memorial. It's at the intersection where he was shot and ultimately died. So we go there, and we're wandering from corner to corner, and we're like, where are we at the right place? And then finally we see some people taking pictures at a utility pole, and that is all it is.
Yes, no.
It's a utility pole that people have been signing with markers for years, and there's no plaque, there's nothing. And I was so disappointed and so disgusted because this couple got there with this, they were there to visit it as well, right before us. And they had big fat markers, and they were writing their name on every little open spot they could see, just probably 12 times a piece. I was just like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Wait, seriously. You said, how old are you? 44?
I'm 44. Yeah.
So I'm 53. The only thing is you get older, you just start to realize humanity sucks, and like people
Mhm.
no decency or dignity, or like even like to me, the equivalent of that. This is way off subject. Is like I'm a New Yorker. I was in New York after 9/11. Like that was the worst moment of my life. And I remember every now and then taking a walk and seeing people taking selfies in front of like where Ground Zero was and being like,
Yeah.
I hope you
Yeah.
all fucking suck because I can't stand that. That actually hurts.
It's crazy.
But
It's
we are who
crazy.
we are. We're just flawed and sucky, myself included. So
So, you mentioned it a little bit ago. There's the goofy Tupac faked his death rumor, and he's in Cuba. Is that something, as a dignified journalist, you spent any time messing around with, just for the sake of like finding out why are people believing this and where did this start?
well, here's the thing. I spent a lot of time with Yasmin Fula, who was a very close friend of his, very close friend of his mother's, who was with him at the end. She confirmed he died, right? I interviewed the coroner. He confirmed he died.
Mhm.
I interviewed the police officer who got to him, the officer who got to him at the corner of Flamingo and Koval. He confirmed he died. Actually, now that he got to him after the limit, they drove off and then they stopped, so he got to there. That he confirmed his last words or blah blah blah. I think it's interesting. Like I never gave a moment of like consideration to he may still be alive because it's
Mhm.
stupid. But I do think there's an interesting sort of idea to our fixation on young death and almost this idea in our heads that maybe he's still just maybe blank.
Mhm.
So I did think about that a lot and wrote about that a little, but I never really seriously considered they might still be alive. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason to believe it. That's the thing. There's
Yeah.
literally no reason to believe Tupac is still alive, including
Yeah.
there are actually pictures that got into a book of his autopsy, his post-autopsy photo. So I've seen Tupac dead,
Yeah. Knowing everything that you know now after 3+ years of research, in your opinion, what are the, maybe 2 or 3 moments, people that doomed Tupac?
Oh, Suge Knight by far number one. I mean, Suge
Okay.
Knight sold him this sort of thing, this whole death row ethos. And
Mhm.
I interviewed a lot of guys from death row, and the consensus, not even controversial, is Tupac bought in. Like he bought in, and he kind of bought into the lifestyle and bought into the thing. Like it remains really stupid and inane that Tupac had anything to do with punching someone in the MGM Grand. Like, you're Tupac Shakur. You're one of the greatest artists of our generation. Let the gangbangers punch someone. Let the gangbangers shoot someone. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not.
Yeah.
It makes people mad who knew him. It makes people mad who are with him. Like, he was very young, and he was very hot-headed, and he was very impulsive. Just a fact. And like, but someone there needed to like be like, yo, no, not you. We're gonna pull you
Mhm.
aside. So that's to me is like number one by far. Like by far. Also, like
Mhm.
Suge Knight he didn't have his interests at heart. He didn't Tupac didn't have very much money. He was just everything was leased. Suge Knight was selling just a lot of bullshit. So to me, by far, Suge Knight. He had a lot of hanger-ons, but they're not to blame for his death.
Mhm.
I think mainly it's Suge Knight, and also the whole like Crips Bloods. You punch a member of the Crips, so now the guy from the Crips needs to get back at you. Like
Right.
it's an ethos that I'm not of it. Obviously, this is where being maybe a white outsider, rural New Yorker, blah blah blah, comes into play. But like in hindsight, Tupac's life was so important. What he learned from his mom, this Black Panther ethos of raise each other up, help other Black men and Black women rise and meet their potential, help them fight the societal biases against them, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, your death has so little, the way you died has so little dignity and purpose. It sucks. It actually sucks. I still hate it.
Did you make any attempt to talk to Suge Knight?
I did. So Suge is in prison in San Diego, and I'm not that
Mhm.
far from San Diego. And I have visited people I've been working on in prison before in my life. In New York, you can just show up. You don't need to, like, I've gone to prison in New York when not that long ago when I was working a podcast about an alleged murder, and you can just show up, give your name, and hope they come out, right? Here, you have to arrange ahead of time with the person, get approval, get on his list. They have a weird thing out here where you can text people in prison. if you sign up for this service, they're on it, and you can text them. And you pay per text. He
Okay.
sent Suge a bunch of texts, and he would reply with okay or hey or a letter. Like he never like. The only time he showed any humanity in his replies, just as far as just being a human who exists, is I found an old report card of his, and Suge got he got either a C or D in music appreciation at UNLV. And I told him, I saw your report card. You got like a D in music appreciation. He wrote back, ha ha. That was the only time. So I didn't get him, though. It was a bummer. I didn't get Jada Pinkett either. I really wanted Jada Pinkett. I didn't get her either. I went to her book event in Miami, but I could not get her.
So I've learned over my research, just getting ready to do this interview with you, about some of the celebrity friends that Tupac had that really surprised me.
Go ahead.
Some people that he was communicating with while he was in jail. Is it true that he was exchanging letters while in prison with Tony Danza?
I interviewed Tony for this, actually.
Okay, so this is true.
Oh, 100%. So Tony Danza wrote him. It might have just been one letter. I think it was just one letter. They had a back and forth. Tony Danza basically didn't know Tupac, never knew Tupac. This was post Who's the Boss, because this is the 90s now.
Right.
Angels of the Outfield era, I guess. And Tony Danza, he was really funny when I interviewed him, because he wrote Tupac a letter, basically, in Tony Danza's words, trying to implore him to use this as an opportunity to better himself and really reconsider what he's doing and how he's living. And Tupac wrote him a letter back, basically saying like, yo, thank you so much for understanding what I'm going through and how and Tony Danza said to me, he was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I agree with you, man. I'm saying you need to work on what you're doing. So that was really funny. Danza just felt compelled. Chuck D wrote him too. Chuck D from Public Enemy. Madonna, he wrote letters to Madonna. He wrote a really sad kind of breakup letter to Madonna because they dated for a while. Mm-hmm. And it was really like emotional and emotive. And Madonna was just kind of like, all right, next, fine. Yeah.
What about Alanis Morissette?
See, that I never saw a letter from Alanis Morissette. I heard about this, but I didn't see a letter from Alanis Morissette.
I don't think I heard that there was letters from prison, but that they had just, become friends along the way. I don't know.
I will say Tupac had is a little off topic, but true. It would not shock me at all if Tupac loved the music of Alanis Morissette, because Tupac's musical tastes were super, super varied and super, super weird. Don McLean loved Indigo Girls, loved Peter Gabriel, Kate Bush, loved Donna Summer, Diana Ross, all the run the gamut. He had very diverse musical tastes. And I could see him, especially when Alanis Morissette came out with Jagged Little Pill, I could see him totally digging that kind of album.
Same. So I like that we're off on this kind of goofy Tupac pop culture tangents. So just a few more on that. Sure. Is it true that he auditioned for the role of Bubba Gump?
100%. Didn't get it.
Awesome.
He also was in the movie. So his first movie, people think his first movie was Juice. His first movie was the Dan Aykroyd movie, Nothing to Lose.
Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble. Why do I keep saying? Is Nothing to Lose a movie too?
Probably.
Nothing But Trouble.
Sounds right.
And have you seen Nothing But Trouble?
Yeah, I've done a whole podcast about it. I've had one of the women from the film, not Demi Moore, Taylor Negron's sister in the film, has been on this show to talk about the movie.
Does she confirm that it's a bad movie?
I think so. Yeah, her name is Bertilla Damas. She worked for SAG for a number of years. Wonderful lady, but her memories of them and Digital Underground was that it was just the constant smell of weed. The whole time they were around, that's all that's all everyone talked about at that time, because everything was illegal.
Wait, do you know the story how they got in the movie?
No.
All right, so Dan Aykroyd is at it. Digital Underground. So Tupac was with Digital Underground at this point. Mm-hmm. They do a show in LA. They're backstage after the show. Eazy-E from NWA is there. And Shock G, the lead rapper from Digital Underground, is sitting in his little area. And someone comes up to him and says, hey, you want to take a hit off my doobie? And he turns and it's Dan Aykroyd. And he loves Dan Aykroyd. Shock G was a big movie guy. He loved Ghostbusters and Spies Like Us and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, I'll take a hit from your little pathetic, sad doobie. And Dan Aykroyd says, I love what you guys are doing. I have a new movie I'm working on. Would you have any interest in doing a song for the movie? And Shock G's like, oh, I'm your biggest fan. I'll do anything. And he goes, do you think the song could have an organ in it? And Dan Aykroyd said, because there's this organ scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. In it. He's like, yeah. Shock G's like, yeah, what kind of song do you want it to be? And he says, just the same song, the same kind of song you're doing. So they write the song, same song. First song, real song that Tupac has a verse in that anybody knows, the same song. Then he says, "Do you guys want to be in the movie?" And they go to the movie. And if you look, Tupac is in the movie. He's wearing a pinstripe New York Yankees jersey. He has his really bad haircut. And according to Chop Master Jay, another member of Digital Underground, Tupac was a pain in the ass on the set because he kept begging Aykroyd for like a line or a scene or something. They would never do it. So most of the time, he was just standing around waiting for the little lip sync scene. They're only in it for about 3 minutes. It's a bad movie.
It is a bizarre movie. That was Dan Aykroyd's directorial debut, and I don't think he's directed anything since.
And he wrote it with his brother. He actually, him and his brother wrote this screen.
That's right, Peter Aykroyd. Yeah,
it's a very, very bad movie.
Another weird pop culture Tupac thing is 1996 musical guest on Saturday Night Live. The host was Tom Arnold, and I was watching interviews today with the guy. Maybe you interviewed him, Corny Mims.
Who was that?
He was like the band director. So like Tupac performed with a live band during the show. So he was like the head of that band that was performing with them. And he basically said it was a nightmare. They had like 3 weeks to prepare. They picked their songs, and not once did Tupac show up to a rehearsal. So he showed up to SNL, day of, basically hearing the arrangements for the first time and trying to perform it live on TV, and SNL was pissed off at him. And
wait, do you know that I wrote about this? Did you know that or
not? No.
Hey, I interviewed Tom Arnold for the book because Tom Arnold was a guest at it. He was a guest host.
Yeah.
First of all, if you watch, I love Tupac. I'm a huge Tupac fan. He's not really good on that show, so that actually adds up. Like, it's not good. Like, it's the whole thing is just kind of screechy. It's not good. But, so they go to the after party after the show. And Tom Arnold told me this story. He said, Suge Knight is there. Suge Knight kind of invited himself to the after party. Yes, I know, after party at some restaurant in Manhattan. And Tom Arnold, he had liked Tupac. He said Tupac was fun, and it was kind of a cool little thing. And Tom Arnold goes up to Tupac, and Tupac's sitting with Suge Knight. And Suge goes, "Hey, Tom, where's Roseanne?" Because they were married at the time. And Tom Arnold goes, "I locked her in the trunk of my car." And he said, Suge Knight loved that. Like, thought it was like the funniest thing. And Tupac told him, like, nobody ever talks to Suge that way. So that was kind of cool. So Tom Arnold, Suge Knight was, I locked my wife in the trunk of my car.
Were he and Roseanne still married at that?
I believe they were.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe they were.
That's funny.
He also, another pop culture moment that I love. Maybe you're going to ask about this. Grammys, Kiss, Tupac present. You know this?
No.
The Grammys in 96. It's best performance by a band or duo. And it's Tupac. This is on YouTube. It's awesome. Presenting. And this is the first time people are seeing the reunited makeup members of Kiss all together.
Okay.
They walk onto the stage. So it's Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss for the first time in 16 years in makeup with Tupac. And they do Tupac says something like, people say the Grammys are getting stale, that we need to shock the people. So let's shock the people. And out comes Kiss, and everyone goes crazy. And he said, Tupac says something like, blah, blah, blah. He goes, "Now, these are my homeboys." And it happens. And then they read the nominees are, it's like All for One, someone out, the Eagles, blah, blah, blah. And Tupac goes, "Oh, my other homeboys, Hootie and the Blowfish." And Hootie and the Blowfish walk out. And you have this sliver of time in American history where the 4 original members of Kiss, Tupac, Darius Rucker, were all on the same stage. And I interviewed Jim Sonnenfeld, who was the drummer of Hootie. And he told me that I was like, "Was that weird for you?" And he's like, "Totally weird." He's like, "But we were actually huge Tupac fans." He said Hootie and the Blowfish on their tour bus were listening to a lot of Tribe Called Quest, Tupac, Poor Rights Teachers. So while they were thrilled to be with Kiss, they were just as thrilled to be with Tupac.
That is amazing. So, you've been promoting the book for what? How many weeks has it been out as we're recording?
It's been out 2 weeks? But you'd usually do like a week and a half before. So it's been 3.5 weeks of Tupac PR.
How long does this continue for you? Where you're just jumping on, podcasts and radio shows? I mean, is this taking you through the holidays, or
no.
is it like a 3 or 4 week window and then you just kind of?
It's really funny actually. So there's a writer who I respect a ton. Her name is Susan Orlean. I don't know if you know her, but she used to write for the New Yorker. She's an amazing writer, and she has a book that just came out. And she mentioned to me via email she's on a book tour. And I look on her website. and she has a legit book tour. It's like, I'm going to be in Cleveland today and Chicago tomorrow. Me, I did 2 events. But I do a ton of like social media. I was on All the Smoke, and I was on different, Rich Eisen, all the sports stuff. But like, it's kind of winding down, and it's a weird. I literally just talked to my wife about this. It's very, very weird. It is so weird. Like, you put 3 years of your life into something. You eagerly anticipate it. It comes out. It's out. The big deal for you, for your family, for everyone you're involved with. And then it kind of just dwindles off, and you're just, all right, here's another book on my shelf. And it's cool. But like, there is some anticlimaticness to, that's not a word, but some anticlimactic nature to writing a book in the aftermath. It's a little weird.
Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur, out now by Jeff Pearlman. You said you got your numbers, you sold like 8,000 copies in week number 1, and that was better than any of your previous titles? Is that right?
Definitely my biggest first week. It doesn't, I think people expect authors to sell like 100,000 books and they're like, whatever, but like, selling books is hard, man.
Does that just not happen?
It happens. Like Eric Trump in his first week, his book sold 93,000 copies. So hats off to Eric Trump. We live in a weird age of book sales, I'm being honest. Like, it's an awesome time to be a celebrity chef, a reality TV star, a douchebag son of the president. Like, it's a lot harder to be like me. Like, I'm in that category, right?
You're just an actual journalist.
I'm a journalist. Author. I'm like a known-ish author, but I'm not famous. I'm writing about a big topic. That helps. But it's kind of a weird place to be where you're like, I'm somewhere in the gap between Stephen King and Michael Lewis and the person self-publishing a book on cats. Like, I'm somewhere in there, I'm not sure where. So,
do you think you will do another music-focused book or something pop culture, non-sport?
Yeah, I don't know what. Maybe my dream book is my now dream book. Tupac was a dream book. I always want. No one's going to buy it, so I'm not doing it. But I always thought it'd be cool to do a book about. I love the band Blind Melon. I love Shannon Hoon, and there are literally 3 people who would buy the Shannon Hoon Blind Melon book. I'd probably be one of them buying 3 copies. So like, I'm not going to do it because I got to eat. But I don't know. Nobody.
There could be something there.
Nobody's going to buy it. No.
I couldn't pull off writing a book. I actually had a guy reach out to me because of this podcast, interested in turning 2 different episodes possibly into a book. He was a book agent or, and the ones that he approached me about were The Little Rascals. I did like a deep dive on Alfalfa and his death, and Vanilla Ice.
Love Vanilla Ice.
And I love Vanilla Ice too. And I'm connected to, some of the people from his inner circle or that were in his inner circle at the time where he was, really on top of the world. But the guy kind of told me, he's like, if you can get him involved, you will make, 3 or 4 times more money right out of the gate. If you don't, it is what it is. And my fear was he won't do it. And I'm afraid I'll say something and then I'm going to end up getting sued by Vanilla Ice. And then where does that, this wasn't worth it.
I want to
so I got away from it. I'm like, I'm not the guy.
I'll give you 2 thoughts on this. Number one, I don't know if a Vanilla Ice book sells. I think
I don't think so.
Maybe if it's his autobiography and he's very honest and there's some hook to it, maybe. Number 2, when I was at Sports Illustrated, Vanilla Ice was a motocross racer of little regard. Yeah. Of little regard, but I convinced my editors at SI that he was a very good motocross racer. Desperately wanted to do a story on Vanilla Ice in Sports Illustrated. So I actually flew down to Miami and hung out with Vanilla Ice. And the thing he said to me, one of the most kind of memorable things in my career, we're sitting in his car. I think he was smoking weed. We're outside a racetrack. We both knew the story was ridiculous. Like, he wasn't really a good race car. We both knew. And he goes, let me tell you the difference between Hammer and the Iceman. I'm like, okay, Iceman. He goes, Hammer invested in horses. The Iceman invested in real estate. And I always thought, the Iceman was not dumb about that. The Iceman was smart about that. And the Iceman has a shitload of money now because he invested in real estate. So,
yes, he does. Yeah. Did you talk to Hammer for this book?
I did not talk to Hammer. I wanted to because he was a death row artist briefly. And he's Brooklyn. I did not. Hammer doesn't really do interviews about Tupac.
No kidding.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time. Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur, out now. JeffPearlman.com is your website. I hope you sell 1 million more copies, man, and keep doing what you're doing. You're a fantastic follow on social media.
I will tell you, and I'm being sincere about this, I've said this before, and I will stand by it. Of all the Jewish sports writers to write a Tupac book, this is your number one. This is the best one. All right?
Absolutely. Without question.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you
man.
so much. I appreciate it.
It's The Odd Podcast. I'm Joe Parisi. Our guest was Jeff Pearlman talking about Tupac and his new book, Only God Can Judge Me, The Many Lives of Tupac Shakur. Available now everywhere. I said before he came on, brilliant storyteller. He is a fantastic follow on social media. At Jeff_Pearlman is where you can find him on Instagram, and I think they're all kind of connected from there. You can follow me at Joe Parisi VO, as in Joe Parisi Voiceover, my website, joeparisivoiceover.com, and my other podcast that is all about these interesting little pop culture topics is America's Pop Culture Trivia Show. Thank you guys for listening. Now go listen to some Tupac and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for being here, guys. Take care.
Dale a tu patio ese cambio que ya pedía, con los ahorros de verano en The Home Depot. Llévate potencia desde $99 con herramientas de las mejores marcas como Ryobi y Milwaukee. Desde arreglos para tus reuniones veraniegas hasta proyectos para cerrar el verano, ahorra en herramientas inalámbricas con la potencia y movilidad que necesitas. Muévete con libertad y potencia sin que nada te detenga. Tus proyectos de verano ahora son más fáciles con The Home Depot. Hasta agotar existencias. Consulta en la tienda o en línea para más detalles.